Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Matty. I'm Chair of the Committee on Standards and Ethics, and I'm joined by my colleagues Steve Levin and Karen Kozowitz. The Committee on Standards and Ethics is meeting today on multiple agenda items regarding alleged violations of Section 10.80 of the Council Rules. It is necessary for the committee to discuss confidential personnel issues. Therefore, I am making a motion for the committee to move into executive session pursuant to Article 7 of the Public Officers Law. Do I have a second? Recognize a second from Councilmember Levin and Kozowitz. A motion has been made and second, and that we move into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Noting that the ayes have it, I'm now going to close this portion of the meeting and reopen an executive session.
Good afternoon and welcome to this hearing of the City Council's Transportation Committee. I'm Dennis Rodriguez, the chair of the committee. Today we will be voting on 3 bills. The first, proposed intro 206-A, introduced by Councilmember Matthew, will require the Departments of Transportation to install pedestrians countdown displays at any intersections where there is a red light camera. The city has identified this location as Vision Zero safety priorities by placing red light cameras there, and this bill goes one step further by adding pedestrians countdown clocks, another proven safety measure. The second proposed intro, A67-A, introduced by Councilmember Adams, will require DOT to establish and maintain guidelines on its website relating to traffic flow designations, changes of a street from one-way to two-way, or vice versa. DOT will also have a report on the status of requests for changes that it has received. Community boards can currently request traffic flow changes, but the process is not very transparent. By requiring DOT's guidelines to be published, members of the public will have a better sense of how DOT makes these decisions and how they can go about requesting such changes. The third, proposed intro 928-A, also introduced by Councilmember Adams, will require at least 2 corners of each intersection to have the appropriate street name signage installed. Some locations, particularly in the outer boroughs, do not have adequate signage, and this bill would impose a new standard for DOT going forward. I would like to sign in those bills. In my name, by any chance, is not added yet. So thank you. I now call for the vote on proposed intro 206-A, A67-A, and 928-A. I recommend a yes vote, and I ask the committee clerk to please call the roll and to please add my name in those bills, and if my bills are not added.
William Martin, committee clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Transportation. All items are coupled. Chair Rodriguez. Cabrera.
Aye.
Constantinidis.
With congratulations to Councilmember Matteo and Adams, I vote aye on all.
Deutsch. Koo.
Aye, and I also like to add my name to 206A. Yeah.
Levine.
Aye.
Menchaca.
Aye on all.
Richards.
Aye on all.
Salamanca.
Aye.
By a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, all items have been adopted by the committee.
Buenos días. Les quiero dar la bienvenida. Están en el Consejo Municipal. Yo soy Carlos Menchaca, concejal y el presidente del Comité de Inmigración. My name is Carlos Menchaca. I'm the president or the chair of the City Council's Committee on Immigration. Today, the Committee on Immigration will hear and vote on Resolution 100A. This is a resolution sponsored by my colleague, Councilmember Dennis Rodriguez, who's been a champion on this issue. Resolution 100A calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the governor to sign the Driver's License and Privacy Act, S1747. The act currently considered at the state legislature would remove the DMV's requirement of a social security number for driver's licenses, permit, and state ID applications. This would remove a significant barrier faced by our undocumented community here in New York State, many of whom need to drive to work or to bring their children to school and enjoy a high quality of life in our state. And with this legislation, New York would join 12 other states that also extend the driver's license access to their undocumented residents. And we are long overdue for this change. The privacy section of the Driver's License and Privacy Act has been thoughtfully crafted to ensure that at no point are undocumented immigrants who take advantage of driver's license access putting their personal identity information at risk. The Act additionally prohibits three things. One, the Act prohibits the discrimination of cardholders and applicants. It prohibits the use of the license or permit as evidence of citizenship or immigration status. And it prohibits the DMV employees from inquiring into applicants' citizenship or immigration status. This legislation would be a huge victory for all New Yorkers, and it has been shown that our streets are safer with licensed and insured drivers on the road. And this bill is a fiscal win too. At a time when the budgets and the state revenue are under threat, the Fiscal Policy Institute estimates that this act alone could generate $57 million in registration and licensing fees. In addition, having more licensed drivers on the road could lower automobile insurance premiums across the board in New York State. I urge my colleagues to show their support for this legislation by voting yes on this resolution today in this committee and on the floor later today. I'm going to hand it over to the Rezo's sponsor, Councilmember Idanes Rodriguez.
Thank you, Carlos. I think that everyone knows that the grandfather or the person that you have as a president today in this country, based on everyone that have been following his immigrant status, find out that he was not completely legal. So the president grandfather was undocumented at some point too. So here we are decades after addressing how we can be helpful to immigrants, documented or undocumented. Para mí es un placer estar aquí proveyendo apoyo a una resolución donde nosotros tenemos que reconocer que este es un Estado, una nación, una sociedad formada por inmigrantes y debe ser para inmigrantes. El abuelo del mismo presidente no tenía todo su documento al día. También él se pudo beneficiar si viviera en estos tiempos. The driver's license for all legislation at the state will make our roads safer, hold all drivers accountable, and potentially enable hundreds of thousands city residents the ability to apply for a driver's license. Los estados que hemos mencionado, todos proveen licencia a personas que no tienen su documento migratorio, que contribuyen en billones de dólares, porque nadie le pregunta por su estatus cuando van a Home Depot, cuando van a Target, cuando van a comprar y con eso pagan impuestos. Por lo tanto, lo menos que nosotros podemos hacer es proveer la oportunidad que puedan tener su licencia para manejar. Other states have set legal precedents for the enactment of driver's license for all. In New York, home of the largest immigrants population in the United States, has the opportunity to create equity and economy revenue stream for the states. According to the Fiscal Policy Institute, allowing documented immigrants the opportunity to obtain driver's license could generate up to $57 million in annual state revenue through license and registration fees, and may lead to lower auto insurance premiums for all New Yorkers. I end by saying that I ask my colleagues to support this resolution today to guarantee driver's license for all, as it is consistent with the city and New York State commitment of being a state that welcome and protect all immigrants. Termino diciendo que espero que mis compañeros voten por esta resolución para mantener el espíritu de la ciudad, de ser una ciudad que protege a los inmigrantes.
Thank you, Councilmember Idanes Rodriguez. Now, I want to call on the clerk for a vote.
William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Immigration, Resolution 100A. Chairman Chaka.
Aye.
Eugene.
I think this is a good resolution. This is a great resolution that will benefit not only the drivers, but also New York City and all of us New Yorkers. With that, I vote aye.
Drum.
I'm very proud to vote yes.
Jonai.
I'm proud to cast my vote in favor of Resolution 100.
Thank you.
Yes.
Holden.
I have so many questions on this that cannot be answered today. I'm really upset that we don't debate these rezos or bills. And by the way, if somebody does the research, and correct me if I'm wrong, though, that if we issue a license, a New York State license to an undocumented, they will carry a phrase not to be used for federal identification. Now, I believe that's to be true, so that will identify the person as being undocumented, essentially, to the police. Now, I don't know, be careful what you ask for. No, I think it's premature. I think we should, look at this. And I'm a little upset that, again, we're not getting the time to really vet this. I did minimal research on it, but I'm finding problems. So I would urge the city council to look at this. So I'm going to vote no because of that. I know you wanted to move it, but we need more debate in the city council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeager.
I, too, am a son of immigrants. My father came to this country on a boat with his older brother and his parents and their parents. And when you look at the faces on this committee and the names, we're all immigrants. We all came to this country, either ourselves or our parents or our grandparents or our great-grandparents, to a nation that welcomed us with open arms, that should do more for immigrants, which is why I'm sad today that I don't have a chance to vote on the merits of the resolution. And the reason is because we haven't had a hearing here in this council. There's been no deliberation in this deliberative body on this resolution. The resolution was introduced on January 31st of last year, and it languished. Nobody talked about it. There was never a conversation. And then on Friday afternoon, we get a notice. Guess what, everybody? Show up on Wednesday because we're voting this emergency bill, this emergency resolution, because God forbid we don't move this today, the city will shut down. What's the rush? I don't know that there's a particular reason that we have to move today to do this. It's not to say this is not a good idea. It's also, to be clear, it's not a law that we're voting on, it's a resolution. Whatever we do today will not advance or hinder the passage of the two bills in the state legislature. They will move forward accordingly. The question that I have today, should we move forward with a vote today for an item that until Friday afternoon was not on our calendar, was not heard by this council, by this committee? Everybody knows, anybody who's watched us knows, we have one hearing, we take a break, we deliberate, we come back several weeks, months, whenever it is later, we have a second hearing and a vote, but today we're not going to do that. I would like to be able to consider this resolution on its merits. I do prefer debate. We should debate things. So today I will not vote in favor. I will not vote against it. I will abstain because I do not support the process by which we have violated our own rules, our own traditions of this body. And with that, I abstain. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
By a vote of 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 1 abstention, Resolution 100A has been adopted by the committee.
Thank you. And in quick response to some of the comments that were made, I want to say, while there was more hunger for more debate, that I hope that you felt like your voices were heard by me as the chair, giving you the space to talk about it in your vote, and that we're going to keep moving forward. The debate has been alive and well on our streets, in our homes, in our families. And so now we are ready. And so with the affirmative votes here at the City Council Committee, we are sending that message that Rodriguez's resolution is a resolution that has really captured the spirit of our community and the need. Whether you're a union member or you live in Queens, that this is not a privilege, this is a necessity for everyday life. And I think that's what I'm taking away from here. We're gonna end the hearing now with great pride that this has passed the committee and is on its way to the stated in a few hours. Si se puede.
Thank you.
We will start today with our votes. Today we will be voting to approve LUs 333 and 334, the Canton Park Nursing Home rezoning in Brooklyn. The applicant seeks approval for a zoning map amendment to rezone the corner of Canton Avenue and Rugby Road from an R3X district to an R6A district, and a related zoning text amendment to map a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing option 1 and option 2. These actions would allow for the expansion of the existing building and the enclosure of a roof deck to provide new space for nursing home residents. Councilmember Eugene is in support of this application, and I know that the councilmember has some remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair Moya. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Councilmember Matthew Eugene. I would like to, as the councilmember representing Brooklyn 48th District, I am pleased to support the Caton Park Rehabilitation and Nursing Centers application for a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment affecting property located in my district at and within the vicinity of 1312 Caton Avenue. The nursing home provides excellent care to the seniors who reside there, and I commend them for always having been a strong partner with me in the community, serving my district and serving also the seniors. The proposed zoning map amendment would make it possible for the existing roof deck of the nursing home to be enclosed so that the new space can be created for programmatic uses such as recreational and physical therapy of residents of the facility, in addition to creating new new offices. I strongly support the Caton Park Nursing and Rehabilitation Center request for a zoning map amendment and a related zoning text amendment to establish a MHI area over the proposal project area, and I urge my colleagues who serve on the subcommittee on zoning and franchises to vote in favor of the project. Thank you very much, Chair Moya. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We will also be voting to approve LUs 338, 339, and 340, the 12 Franklin Street text amendment and related special permit applications in Brooklyn. The zoning text change would map the subject block within an industrial business incentive area, while the related special permit would allow an increase in allowable floor area for industrial and commercial uses, modifying height and setback regulations, and reduce the off-street parking and loading requirements. Together, the application would facilitate the development of a new 7-story building with retail, office, and light industrial space. Councilmember Levin is in support of this application, and I wanted to turn it over for a few remarks.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application that is in line with the special permit that we have worked on and passed in previous iterations in the north, in the Williamsbridge Greenpoint Industrial Business Zone, which would allow for light manufacturing to be built as part of commercial development, really for the first time in many years in New York City. And so this is an exciting tool. We're thrilled that it's being used, and this isn't the last application that is looking to use this tool. We appreciate the work of the applicant, and we look forward to voting in the affirmative on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Pursuant to Council Rules 790 and 1180, we will also be filing Resolution 621 of 2018 to remove it from our calendar. This application for an authorizing resolution for a franchise has been withdrawn. I now call for a vote to approve the following applications, which have the support of the local council members. LUs 333 and 334, the Canton Park Nursing Home Rezoning applications, and LUs 338, 339, and 340, the 12 Franklin Street text amendment and special permit applications, and to file Resolution 621 of 2018 to remove it from our calendar. Council, please call the roll.
Chair Moya.
Aye on all.
Councilmember Constantinides.
Aye on all.
Councilmember Lanceman. Aye. Councilmember Levin.
Aye on all.
Councilmember Richards.
Aye on all.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
Councilmember Grodenchik. By a vote of 7 in the affirmative, 0 in opposition, and 0 abstaining, the items are approved and referred to the full Land Use Committee.
We will now begin our public hearings. Our first hearing is on Resolution 714, an authorizing resolution pursuant to Section 363 of the Charter, the Staten Island Bus Franchise authorizing resolution, serving 2 routes in Councilmember Borelli's and Councilmember Mattio's districts in Staten Island, as well as Councilmember Powers and Speaker Johnson's district in Manhattan. It would authorize the New York City Department of Transportation to grant a non-exclusive franchise for the provision of bus service between Staten Island and Manhattan. These 2 routes are currently known as the SIM-23 and SIM-24 express bus routes, and are provided pursuant to a contract between New York City Department of Economic Development and Academy Bus LLC. Through the proposed authorizing resolution, DOT would assume responsibility for their operation and would issue a request for proposals for the routes subject to the franchise. The authorization will be effective for 5 years, and the term of the franchise will be no longer than 25 years. The franchise agreement itself would be subject to future approval of the Franchise and Concession Review Committee and the separate and additional approval of the mayor. I now open the public hearing on this application, and I call Michelle Craven.
My name is Michelle Craven, and I am the Assistant Commissioner for the New York City Department of Transportation's Office of Cityscape and Franchises. This resolution would authorize NYC DOT to grant a non-exclusive franchise for the provision of bus services between Manhattan and Staten Island. This franchise would be for the SIM-23 and SIM-24 express bus services, formerly the X-23 and X-24, which have operated since 2001 under a New York City Economic Development Corporation contract. The reason for this resolution is largely procedural. When the Metropolitan Transportation Authority took over operations of 7 bus companies around the city beginning in 2005, these 2 routes were the only routes not included. NYC EDC continued to contract with a private company to run the 2 routes with the expectation that the MTA would shortly fold the routes into its service. To date, however, despite several requests through the years, the MTA has yet to accept the routes. Because NYC EDC's role was meant to be temporary, the city has decided to transfer oversight of the service from NYC EDC to NYC DOT, while still seeking an arrangement from MTA to ultimately incorporate these routes into its regular service. The franchise process begins with the City Council approval of the authorizing resolution, following which NYC DOT will issue a request for proposals for this service. While a different operator may be the winning proposer, NYC DOT will require the eventual franchisee to maintain existing service. Once the winning proposer is selected, NYC DOT will seek approval of the franchise agreement with that company from the city's Franchise and Concession Review Committee. Recently, the MTA included route changes for these bus lines in its overall bus redesign plan for Staten Island. According to Academy Bus, this has resulted in a decrease in ridership and an increase in customer complaints. NYC DOT and EDC are currently reviewing Academy's request to return to its previous routes. While we continue to talk with the MTA about taking these routes, this resolution will help ensure continued operations.
Thank you for your testimony today. So we're going to go back and open up the votes.
Continuing the vote, Councilmember Reynoso.
I vote aye on all.
Councilmember Torres.
I vote aye. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On a tally of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, the items are approved and again referred to the full Land Use Committee.
Our next hearing is on LUs 350 and 351, the Betances rezoning for property in Councilmember Ayala's district in the Bronx. The applicant seeks approval for a proposed zoning map amendment for an R6 to an R7X and an R6 C14 to an R7X C24, and a related zoning text amendment to map the project area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing option 2. These actions would facilitate the development of a 15-story building with 100 affordable housing units and 8,564 square feet of ground floor commercial space. I now open the public hearing on this application.
Thank you for having us this morning. So as in May 2015, the New York City Housing Authority released the Next Generation NYCHA Plan. As a part of that plan, the Housing Authority committed to developing 10,000 new units of 100% affordable housing on underutilized NYCHA land. This is one of 12 new development sites that have been announced since the release of that plan. Again, this project is for 100% affordable housing, 101 units, including a supers unit. Just some basic facts about Next Gen NYCHA. NYCHA residents will have a preference for 25% of the new affordable apartments. This doesn't affect any residents, tenancy. The land will be leased under a long-term ground lease, and NYCHA is not putting any funds into the construction of the new building. The planning for this project began as part of a Choice Neighborhoods planning grant that NYCHA received, Make Mott Haven Transformation Plan. NYCHA was not awarded the implementation grant by HUD, but there were a number of ideas from that planning grant that we decided to move forward with, this new development site being one of them.
My name is Anivelka Cordova. I'm a principal with Lemley & Wolf, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the project. So the project will be developed through a joint venture partnership between Lemley & Wolf Companies, The Bridge, and Alembic Community Development. Think Architecture is our project architect. Here I'd like to summarize some of the key project highlights. The project will include an on-site social service program that will be operated by The Bridge. The Bridge has secured a New York 3 social service contract from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene that will provide on-site services and rental subsidies to formerly homeless individuals with special needs for 30% of the units. The project will include hiring targets and will also offer NYCHA residents and local community members job training opportunities. On the leasing side, there will be preferences for community board members and NYCHA residents. We believe the project will help meet some of the community development goals outlined in the Make Mott Haven plan, with the creation of approximately 8,500 square feet of modern and accessible commercial space, and by offering affordable housing opportunities for families. The building will include several green building features, including green roofs and open space. It will also meet Enterprise Green Communities certification. The building will provide 101 units of housing. 30% of the units will be set aside for supportive housing. The remaining 70% non-supportive units are designed for larger families. We'll have 24 2-beds and 14 3-beds, which represents 54% of non-supportive units. The units will be primarily affordable to low-income individuals and families, as well as middle-income families. Based on the preliminary underwriting and discussions with elected officials, including Councilmember Ayala's office, the current target is summarized here in this chart and includes 68% of the units affordable at or below 50% AMI, and 32% of the units up to 80% AMI. This AMI distribution also assumes that 8 project-based Section 8 vouchers will be secured by the development team in order to offer the deeper affordability that we've outlined here. Permanent affordability for 25% of the zoning square footage will be obtained under MIH Option 1. We will be seeking a modification for this. It was initially approved under MIH Option 2. However, given Councilmember Ayala's feedback, we will be seeking this modification. The remaining units will be subject to extended affordability requirements. The project is expected to be financed through HPD's extremely low and low income affordability program, which is paired with HTC tax-exempt bond financing and 4% tax credits. The project will also look to qualify for a 420C tax abatement. Here, just want to highlight that we have an experienced social service provider with a great track record who's also a co-developer partner. The bridge will provide case management services for 30 formerly homeless individuals that demonstrate ability to live in independent housing. The staff will include a program director, a case manager, and a peer specialist. In addition to the staff, the project will have security guards during non-business hours. The development team will work with NYCHA and local community partners, including Community Board, to market 15 construction jobs, which represents 30% of the new jobs in the project is expected to generate. In addition, the team will market 6 permanent jobs. 2 of these positions are planned to offer union wages. The team has executed a development agreement, 32BJ confirming our commitment. Job training opportunities will also be offered to NYCHA and local residents through our partnerships with local community groups.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. I understand that the affordability AMIs will be memorialized in the HPD regulatory agreement. Will it also be memorialized in HPD's ground lease?
Yes, in NYCHA's ground lease, yeah.
And these units in the new building will be subject to a community preference and a NYCHA preference. Can you explain how those work together?
25% of the preference will go to NYCHA residents and 25% to community district members.
And what is the rent per year for the land lease on this project?
The rent is $1 for the length of the ground lease.
How many years is the lease, and how much are you going to make at the end of it?
The lease is anticipated to be 99 years.
99 years.
And $1 is the complete payment for the length of the lease.
Here we work very hard to ensure that New Yorkers make a fair wage for their work. What is the plan to make sure that the building service jobs are good paying jobs and benefits that consist with area standards and the standards that are enjoyed by the existing building service workers at this development?
So we have planned and have proposed to the funding agencies to have livable wages for the super and porter position in the building, and we have executed an agreement with 32BJ memorializing that. So we're moving forward in that direction.
We've been joined by Councilmember Ayala.
I have another hearing across the street, so I won't be here long.
No, it's okay.
But I just wanted to reiterate my support for this project. But I also have to go on record and saying that while and this is not a Lumley Wolf thing, this is really for the administration. I love these projects. I love anything that's affordable, I will take because we need them. I think that a 30% set aside, especially for a project where you only have 100 units, is a disservice to the community in a way. It allows us to do a really great thing, right, which is build our way out of the homeless epidemic, but at the same time, those 30% set aside take away from the lower income AMI units that my community so desperately needs, right? And so then it just allows, we have to be, constantly fighting for every one unit. And I can't do that if I'm bringing in, I'm helping on the one end to meet, the mayor's housing plan, but I'm only bringing really into the Port's congressional district 10, 14 units at a time. I can't continue to vote on these projects in the affirmative if they're not also beneficial to the constituents that I represent, right? And so we want to do the right thing, but it needs to be done in a more equitable way. And so again, this is not a Lumley Wolf. I want to actually say thank you because I think you guys have been great partners, and I know that we've been back and forth, and I apologize for that, but I have to do that because we have to, be very clear that there is, especially in communities like mine, a desperate need for affordable units because my constituents are being displaced at a very rapid rate. And if we don't do something to address that now, it's just a revolving door because these are the same residents that are going to end up in shelter. So we need to open up more opportunities for them. I also have some concerns about the labor, right? We want to make sure that we're hiring and that we're getting good jobs for individuals that live in this community as well. That is something that we'll continue to have a conversation about afterwards, but I just wanted to come in and say that I, wholeheartedly support this project and that I wish you luck and welcome you to my haven, and hopefully we'll be working together for the next few years.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony today. Next, I'm calling Vinny Stellato.
I'm here today on behalf of my union and as a lifelong Bronx resident. As you know, 32BJ represents more than 80,000 property service workers in New York City. We clean and maintain buildings like this one proposed. We fully support the development of affordable housing, particularly development that is 100% affordable like Betances 6. We are supportive of this project, and we are happy to report we are working in partnership with the development team at this project to create good building service jobs. 32BJ represents the 32 workers in the existing buildings at Betances. We believe that the workers at the proposed infill development should be paid the same good wages and benefits. We understand that the development team has included this standard in the budget that they have submitted to HPD. We are calling on the city to work with the developer to ensure that this commitment to create good building service jobs is fully realized, and we are urging the City Council to ensure the strong wage and benefit standards for workers are part of the final plan for this project before it is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. I now close the public hearing on this application, and it will be laid over. Our next public hearing for today is going to be on LUs 348 and 349, the Williamsbridge rezoning for property in Councilmember Jonai's district in the Bronx. The applicant seeks approval of a zoning map amendment to rezone a C81 district, 1 FAR to a R7A and R7A C23 district, which is a 4.6 FAR, and a related zoning text amendment to designate the project area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing option 1 and option 2. These actions would facilitate the redevelopment of a 9-story mixed-use building, 30 residential unit, MIH option 1 or 2, 8 or 9 units respectively, with recreation space, 16 below-grade parking space, bicycle parking, and approximately 4,825 square feet of ground floor commercial space. I now open the public hearing on this application.
Thank you, Chair Moya. Council members, good morning. Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC, representing the Pilla family with regards to the Williamsbridge Road rezoning. So the rezoning is located in the Allerton section of the Bronx. You notice the circled portion of the map to the upper left. And this is essentially rezoning to take a C81 district and to rezone that to an R7A. So the tax map, as you see in front of you, is a focused area demonstrating the lots originally included in the rezoning. The C81 district, which allows only for commercial and automotive uses, has been in this area since prior to 1961. And so when we initially approached this rezoning, we looked to see whether or not it would be appropriate to rezone this portion to a residential mixed-use district. The rezoning right now, as was presented to the commission, includes 7 lots. Of those 7 lots, 6 of those had residential uses, except for 1 lot on Colden Avenue, which is owned by the applicant and which would be part of the development site. I'd further note that with regards to those 6 lots, one of those lots, which appears at the corner of Colden and Williamsbridge Road, is an existing 6-story overbuilt residential building, which would become conforming pursuant to the proposed rezoning. So you can see from a land use map, again, several things from this graphic. First is that the area is one where there is a transit-rich area. You have bus lines that abound the property on all 3 sides. You also have within several blocks the 2 and 5 subway lines, which are within, let's say, a half mile from the property site. And so as pursuant to prior rezonings in the Bronx, when you look at a transit-rich area with existing residential use and a district in which many of the properties are underutilized or underdeveloped, it is deemed appropriate to approach the city for a residential rezoning. Here you can see some pictures of of the properties included within the project area. On the lower left is a picture of the existing commercial building on Williamsbridge Road. This is a 1.5-story building, a basement commercial with 2 residential units. And on the upper left, you can see the frontage on Colden Avenue. This is the 1-story garage building, roughly 1,400 square feet. Again, the only conforming use right now within the C81, as well as the adjacent 1 to 2 family residential homes. So in accordance with this rezoning, we would just recap the zoning calculations for the benefit of the committee and subcommittee, and then be happy to answer any questions. The rezoning as proposed was for 7 lots and would have allowed for a 9-story, 35-unit residential building on the development site. As we went through the process with the community board and then the Bronx Borough President's Office, there were certain changes made to the application to respond to questions and comments. One of those was to reduce the number of units in the development. So the number of units in the development were reduced from 35 to 30, thus making this a less dense development, which responded to some of the concerns of the local area. And importantly, at city planning, the rezoning was reconfigured to remove the 4 single to 2 family home residences on Colden Avenue, thus ensuring that those would not be basically redeveloped within our 7A building, which was seen as being too much additional development at the time for this block. So right now, the building would only include the development site, and would include the rezoning would include the property to the south of us. This property is already built to a 5.38 FAR, so it would not typically be redeveloped under this scenario. The maximum FAR under the R7A is 4.6, thus it is likely that the building there would remain. Given the fact that this is a relatively small development, the number of units would be fairly equivalent. I think it would be 9 units of MIH pursuant to option 2, or 8 units pursuant to option 1. While we leave this open for either option, we haven't really extended a preference yet, so it would really be in accordance with the council members' wishes. The building amenities primarily consist on the 9th floor with an outdoor area as well as a physical fitness room. My understanding is that those would be limited to the building residents. For concerns of security and such. So we've had quite a long and deliberative process with the community board, at which although there was a disapproval of the community board, it was a split vote 14 to 20. So there was many people on the community board felt that this rezoning was too large. So in response to that, the rezoning was reduced by 4 properties on Colden, thus basically ensuring that those properties would not be merged and redeveloped with a larger building.
And how does the development compare in terms of height and scale in the neighborhood? I know you kind of went over that, but if you can just...
Sure. When we looked at the potential rezoning of the project, we looked at the fact that you have a really open area and kind of a wide street and really confluence of several wide streets in front of the property. So we looked at other properties in the area, but particularly were guided by the bulk of the building immediately to the south. That building is a grandfathered pre-1961 building with, as I mentioned, an FAR exceeding the R7A bulk. So when we did discuss this initially with city planning, it was deemed that R7A would be appropriate, particularly because including that building within the rezoning basically brings that building into conformance. So the use as a residential building would now be legal conforming and doesn't even cover the entirety of the bulk. So while it would be less non-complying, it would still be more complying than under the existing C81. We also noted that the existing C81 would permit a 21,000 square foot, that's 21,000 square foot medical office and mixed-use commercial building. And so we looked at that when we looked at the available zoning districts and basically in conjunction with city planning, thought that an R7A would be most appropriate.
And I just want to go back. So you're saying that the building amenities will not be open to all residents?
No, to all building residents.
Yeah.
They'd be open to all the residents, but it wouldn't be open to the public.
Got it. Thank you. Just wanted to make that clear. And that's it.
Okay,
Thank you so much for your testimony today. Thank you for being here. This meeting is hereby adjourned.